Hi, I'm woman Ava. I'm 28 years old, and this is my story. My life, 2 months ago, felt like a beautifully constructed dream. It wasn't perfect, no life is, but it was my perfect. I had a fulfilling job in graphic design, a cozy apartment with a balcony overflowing with herbs, and a relationship that felt like coming home. His name was Mark, and we'd been together for nearly 3 years. Mark was everything I thought I wanted: kind, funny, incredibly supportive, and just the right amount of rugged charm. He worked in construction management, a demanding job, but he always made time for me, for us. Our evenings were filled with easy laughter, good food, and planning our next weekend adventure. A hike in the state park, a road trip to a new city, or just a quiet night in with a movie. One of the foundational pillars of our relationship, the one that gave me a sense of peace and certainty about our future, was our shared understanding about children. Mark had two amazing kids from his first marriage, both teenagers now, and he was a dedicated father. But he'd made it clear early on, even before we got serious, that he was done having more. He'd had a vasectomy years ago, a decision he'd made after his divorce, wanting to focus on his existing children and his own future without the prospect of starting over with babies. I respected that. More than respected it, I embraced it. While I loved kids and adored the idea of having my own, the thought of pregnancy and childbirth and sleepless nights, honestly, it filled me with a quiet dread. I valued my independence, my career, the freedom we had together. So, when Mark told me about his vasectomy, it wasn't a deal breaker. It was a relief. It solidified our compatible visions for life. We were aligned. We were building a life together, an exciting, child-free future. We talked about travel, about eventually buying a little house with a big yard for a dog, about growing old together, just us. It was a comfortable, secure, and wonderfully predictable path. Then things started to shift. Subtly, at first. A wave of nausea during my morning coffee, something I chalked up to a new brand of beans. A bone-deep fatigue that no amount of sleep seemed to fix, which I blamed on a particularly demanding client project. Food aversions popped up out of nowhere. The smell of my favorite garlic pasta suddenly made my stomach clench. I'm usually someone who breezes through life with a pretty stable constitution, so these little anomalies began to stack up, creating a quiet hum of unease beneath the surface of my consciousness. I'd catch myself staring blankly at my computer screen, mind racing through a list of possibilities, none of which I truly wanted to acknowledge. I tried to ignore it. Really, I did. I told myself it was stress, a bad flu coming on, anything but that. Mark had had a vasectomy. A vasectomy meant no more kids. It was a biological dead end, a closed chapter. Our chapter. So this couldn't be that. But the signs persisted, growing more insistent, more undeniable. My period was late, not just a day or two, but a whole week. Then another. Panic, cold and sharp, began to prickle at the edges of my composure. I started to notice how much I was holding my breath, how my heart would skip a beat every time I felt a new wave of queasiness. One Tuesday evening, after Mark had gone out for his weekly poker night with his buddies, I found myself standing in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. My face was pale, my eyes wide and shadowed with a fear I couldn't articulate. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't live with this gnawing uncertainty anymore. I slipped out, drove to the nearest 24-hour pharmacy, my hands clammy on the steering wheel. The fluorescent lights inside felt blindingly bright, highlighting every tremor in my body. I grabbed a discreet box from the family planning aisle, my cheeks burning even though I was alone. At the checkout, I paid in cash, avoiding eye contact with the cashier, feeling like a teenager buying something illicit. Back in the quiet sanctity of my bathroom, the box felt heavy in my shaking hands. I tore it open, heart thrumming against my ribs like a trapped bird. Following the instructions felt like an out-of-body experience. Each step was a ritual of dread. I peed into the little cup, my mind blank, a desperate plea for normalcy echoing in my head. Then, the waiting. Those 3 agonizing minutes stretched into an eternity. I leaned against the cold tile wall, trying to control my breathing, trying to calm the frantic hammering in my chest. It'll be negative, I told myself. It has to be. There's no other explanation. Mark had a vasectomy.
Mark.
Vasectomy. These words were supposed to be my shield. When I finally dared to look, my eyes focused on the small window on the stick. One line. My breath hitched, a wave of relief washing over me, so potent it made my knees weak. Asterisk C. I told you. Asterisk, a voice whispered in my head. But then, as I watched, as if in slow motion, a second line, faint but undeniably there, began to bloom. It was like watching a ghost appear. My blood ran cold. The air left my lungs in a whoosh. My vision swam. Positive. 2 lines. Pregnant. The stick dropped from my fingers and clattered onto the tile floor. The sound was deafening in the sudden silence of the room. I stared at it, unmoving, as if staring hard enough could make it disappear, could somehow rewind time. Pregnant.
How?
How is this possible? Mark had a vasectomy. A vasectomy. The word echoed in my mind, mocking me. My hands flew to my mouth, stifling a choked sob. Tears blurred my vision, hot and stinging. My carefully constructed dream, our beautiful, predictable future, shattered into a million pieces around me. I felt numb, yet every nerve ending screamed. This wasn't just an unexpected twist. It was an impossible paradox. It was a seismic shift, an alien presence in the carefully curated landscape of my life. And the most terrifying thought of all, I had to tell Mark. The next few days were a blur of raw emotion. I walked around in a fog, going through the motions of work, but my mind was a chaotic storm. I bought more tests just to be sure, hoping for a different outcome, praying for a mistake. Each one confirmed the truth, stark and unyielding. Positive. 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 I felt like I was carrying a secret that was simultaneously too heavy to bear and too fragile to expose. How could I tell him? How could I explain something that defied logic? The pit in my stomach grew larger with each passing hour, a lead weight dragging me down. Mark, oblivious, went about his days, cheerful and loving, asking about my mood, attributing my quietness to stress. His innocent inquiries felt like daggers to my heart. I couldn't look him in the eye without feeling a fresh wave of guilt, fear, and a terrifying sense of betrayal that I couldn't yet place. Was it him betraying me, or me betraying him by simply existing in this impossible state? I decided I couldn't wait any longer. The secret was suffocating me. Friday night. We had our usual routine, take out a movie, and just unwinding after a long week. The apartment felt too quiet, the air thick with unspoken dread. Mark was sprawled on the couch, half watching a documentary, occasionally reaching for my hand. My stomach churned.
My mouth was dry.
I couldn't eat. I pushed the pad thai around my plate, unable to swallow. "Are you okay, babe?" he asked, sensing my unusual quietness. He reached over and gently touched my forehead. "You feel a little warm. Still stressed about work." I shook my head, my voice catching in my throat. This was it. There was no easy way. I took a deep, shaky breath, trying to steady my racing heart. My palms were sweaty. I picked up one of the pregnancy tests I'd hidden in my pocket, the one that screamed pregnant in big bold letters, and placed it on the coffee table between us. Mark glanced down at it, then back at my face, a frown creasing his brow. "What's this?" he asked, picking it up, his expression still light, confused. He looked at the word, then back at me. Slowly, as if a switch had been flipped, the color drained from his face. His eyes widened, his lips parting slightly, but no sound came out. The remote control slipped from his grasp, hitting the floor with a soft thud. I'm pregnant," I whispered, the words barely audible, my voice cracking. The confession hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. His face, which had been so warm and familiar just moments before, turned ashen. He went white. Not just pale, but genuinely colorless, as if all the blood had drained from his body. His jaw tightened, his eyes darting from the test to my face, then back to the test again, as if willing it to change. He was frozen, statue-like. The silence that followed was deafening, stretching out, punctuated only by the frantic beat of my own heart. But that's impossible. He finally choked out, his voice hoarse, barely a whisper. He looked utterly bewildered, shattered. I had a vasectomy. I know, I replied, my own voice trembling. That's why I don't understand.
I don't know how this happened, Mark.
I swear to God, I don't. My eyes pleaded with him, searching for an answer, for an explanation that could somehow make sense of this impossible situation. He stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth in front of the couch, his hands running through his hair, a desperate, wild look in his eyes. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking through me, consumed by his own internal turmoil. No, 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 he muttered, shaking his head vehemently. This can't be happening. My vasectomy was done right. The doctor said it was completely successful. I had the follow-up tests. Everything was clear. I watched him, my heart breaking with each frantic movement. Part of me expected anger, betrayal, suspicion. But what I saw was pure, unadulterated terror and confusion. He genuinely looked as stumped and horrified as I felt. My mind raced, trying to find a logical explanation. Could it have failed? It was rare, but not impossible. Was it a miracle? A medical anomaly? Then he stopped pacing, turning to face me, his eyes wide and haunted. He swallowed hard, his gaze fixed on mine, and in that moment, I saw a flicker of something new, not just shock, but a deep, agonizing shame. Ava, he began, his voice barely above a whisper, there's something I have to tell you. He wouldn't meet my eyes directly now, his gaze fixed somewhere over my shoulder. My blood ran cold, a new wave of dread washing over me, far more chilling than the pregnancy itself. This wasn't about a failed procedure, was it? This was something else. Something worse. He took another shaky breath, the words seemingly ripped from him. My vasectomy. I had it reversed. The world tilted. The air in the room grew heavy, suffocating. My mind struggled to process his words. Reversed? What? When? Why? The shock was so profound it felt like a physical blow. I gasped, unable to form a coherent thought, let alone a question. He continued, his voice cracking, each word a hammer blow to my heart. It was about 8 months ago. I know I should have told you. I planned to. I swear I did. But I was scared. He ran a hand over his face, looking utterly miserable. I love you so much, and you're everything I ever wanted. You were so amazing with the kids, and I saw how good you were, how natural. And I started to miss the idea of having a baby with you. Not just my first two, but our baby. I wanted to start a family with you. My head was spinning. The room was blurring around the edges. I could hear his words, but they sounded distant, distorted. You had it reversed? I finally managed to stammer, the words foreign on my tongue. Without telling me? Without even discussing it with me? His eyes, filled with regret and fear, finally met mine. I know it was wrong. I know. And I was going to tell you, I promise. I didn't know how. I knew how you felt, how we'd agreed. But I kept hoping you'd change your mind, or that I could gently bring it up. And I thought if it just happened, if you got pregnant, maybe you'd see it as a sign. Maybe you'd be happy. My breath hitched. Happy? Happy that he had systematically stripped away my bodily autonomy, my right to choose, our shared understanding of our future? Happy that he had manipulated me, lied to me, and actively worked behind my back to achieve an outcome I had not agreed to? The betrayal was a raw, gaping wound. It wasn't just the pregnancy anymore. It was the sheer audacity of his deception. He had taken a decision that was fundamentally mine to make, ours to make, and he had unilaterally overridden it. He had played God with my body, with my life. All the trust one had painstakingly built, all the security I felt in our relationship, crumbled into dust. You thought if I just got pregnant, I'd be happy? I repeated, my voice rising, trembling with a mixture of disbelief and searing anger. You honestly thought that? You violated my trust. You lied to me. For months, you've been lying to me. We built our future on a foundation of no kids because you said you didn't want any more. And you knew how I felt. You took that choice away from me, Mark. You literally took my choice away. Tears streamed down my face, hot and stinging, but these were tears of pure rage and heartbreak, not just fear. The man I loved, the man I trusted implicitly, had betrayed me in the most profound way. He hadn't just made a mistake. He had deliberately orchestrated a situation that would forever alter my life, all without my knowledge or consent. I didn't mean to hurt you, he pleaded, reaching out a hand, but I flinched away as if burned. I wanted a baby with you so badly. I love you, Ava. Please try to understand. Understand? How could I understand such a fundamental breach? His selfish desire had overridden my entire being, my autonomy, my dreams. He had essentially set a trap, hoping I would fall into it and then magically be grateful. No, I choked out, shaking my head violently. I don't understand. I don't think I ever will. My voice was thick with emotion, but beneath the pain, a fierce resolve was beginning to harden. How could I ever trust you again, Mark? How could I ever look at you and not see the person who deliberately manipulated my life? This isn't love. This is control. It's sickening. The silence returned, heavier this time, filled with the echoes of his confession and the shattering of my heart. The happy life I had envisioned, the secure future, it was all gone, replaced by a terrifying uncertainty and a gaping chasm where trust once stood. He went white when I told him I was pregnant. But the shocking truth about his vasectomy, the truth he just confessed, turned my entire world white, bleached of all color and hope. The dream was over. The lie was exposed. And the heartbreaking reality was just beginning. This isn't the story I ever thought I'd tell. This isn't the future I planned. It's raw, it's messy, and it's still incredibly painful. If you've ever felt betrayed or faced an impossible choice, you know how alone it can feel. But sharing my story, even just this part of it, feels like taking back some of that control. So, if this resonated with you, please consider giving this video a like, subscribe for more authentic stories, and share your thoughts in the comments. It helps me know I'm not alone.